Hi, everyone. Today, we'll be talking about on our webinar on how a SaaS company saves 60% by migrating from VMware. My name is Michael Tillman. I'm the principal solution architect here at Mirantis. And over the last little bit, I've turned basically into the solution architect manager, leading the Americas, North and South America. I've been with Mirantis for over 5 years, but I've been a solution architect delivering robust, customized, scalable solutions for over 10 years. So today for the agenda, what we're going to talk about in regards to this webinar is, a couple of things, and we'll get more into this as we kind of go, but the main agenda points that I'll be following today are why companies are moving away from VMware, and really dive down into that and speak specifically around what we're seeing as an organization and what I see specifically when speaking with customers and specifically with this SaaS company that we're talking specifically about today. Then we're going to talk about the SaaS company challenges before the migration, basically what was going on within their environment, within their ecosystem as a whole, and basically just what predicated this move. And then we're going to speak about how Mirantis OpenStack provided that solution, and really the key milestones of migrating them off of VMware onto the Mirantis OpenStack, and those key milestones. Then basically we're going to talk about the achieved benefits, and obviously it's in the header of this talk, but it's a 60% cost savings. But one of the things that was not in the title of the webinar is faster deployments and then also compliance. And I'll be talking about those specifically as well when we get to them. And I'll explain a little bit around what the faster deployments look like and the compliance. And then, of course, we'll have, what did we learn from all of it, and what were the key takeaways, not only for our SaaS company, but with Mirantis as well. So why are companies moving away from VMware? I know if you're currently involved in VMware and wanting to make a move, you're very, very familiar with this. But I think the main thing is that, your IT landscape is shifting. And many companies and many organizations are reconsidering their reliance on VMware. And VMware's licensing and their cost structures have changed so dramatically over the past couple of years since their acquisition from Broadcom, but it's making it far more expensive to scale. And so as companies grow, they realize that VMware doesn't necessarily provide the flexibility that they need for modern workloads. One of the others is vendor lock-in, and that is a major concern for many organizations such as yours. And you want to be able to control your infrastructure, and you want the ability to customize your environment, without the proprietary constraints. And OpenStack has emerged and always has been one of the leading alternatives. And why is that? It's offering an open source, highly scalable, and cost-effective solution. And Mirantis OpenStack provides that cost-effective solution with an enterprise-grade private cloud that eliminates all of the licensing fees, and it reduces your operational costs significantly. So many of you may be feeling the pressure of the rising VMware costs, and you're absolutely not alone. We are definitely seeing a significant shift in the industry as organizations such as yours seek greater control, scalability, and cost savings. This is where the Mirantis OpenStack comes into play. Unlike the proprietary solutions, OpenStack is open source, and meaning that there is no vendor lock-in, and it's fully customizable for your needs specifically. And today we'll explore how this one particular SaaS company made the transition, and they achieved incredible results. And we'll go over those more as the talk continues. And so that's just a couple of things and a couple of points that why such organizations are moving away from VMware. Okay, so what was the SaaS organization? What were their challenges before we started the migration? So let me just kind of walk you through what it was that they had, and they were a very rapidly growing company, and they needed a more cost-effective and scalable cloud solution. They were running a lot of VMs, but the way that we came in and assisted them was with 3,000 VMs that were running on VMware. It's a small subset of what they have, yes, but 3,000 VMs is definitely a reasonable scale. And so that was leading to a massive operational expense for them, and they were rapidly expanding. So one of the other pieces was their deployments were slow, and it was taking up to 3 months per cycle, which hindered their agility. And in anything that takes 3 months just to get a new cluster up or to get a new environment up to be able to better provide for their businesses, then this is definitely something that they wanted to take advantage of. So as they expanded globally, VMware's licensing and infrastructure costs became unsustainable for them, and they had to make a change. They had to find a different alternative. A couple of other things that was very first and foremost on their mind was security and compliance. And these were two very critical components for them operating as a business and from a technical standpoint as well. They work with federal agencies in the United States, and they needed a FedRAMP High compliance. So any of you out there that are working with the federal government and have to have FedRAMP compliance, they were able to achieve leveraging our Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes FedRAMP High compliance. They also required FIPS 140-2 encryption and IPsec for all traffic in motion, all traffic. And so they had to have a hardened cloud configuration. And they realized that the need for these, for an alternative, would reduce the cost, improve their flexibility, and ensure compliance with the United States federal government. So basically, this SaaS company was facing these challenges, and a lot of you might be able to relate to this. And they had a very huge VMware footprint, and their costs were escalating as they grew. On top of that, they needed to comply with strict security regulations, which made a proprietary cloud infrastructure even more challenging. They needed a solution that would allow them to scale rapidly while maintaining security and compliance. That's why they turned to us here at Mirantis with our OpenStack for Kubernetes. So the cost pressures were immense, and their reliance on VMware for virtualization meant that they were incurring significant costs to maintain and scale their infrastructure. Every virtual machine came with added licensing fees and operational expenses, which became basically unsustainable as they continued to grow. And they were in a hyper growth portion of their business. They realized that they needed a more cost-effective approach, especially as they scaled to support their global customers. The deployment delays with VMware were deploying new environments took up to 3 months. And this timeline included provisioning, configuration, and testing, slowing down their ability to roll out features or onboarding new customers very quickly. So 3 months is a significant amount of time. And in a fast-paced SaaS environment, agility is absolutely the key. So long deployment cycles can put a company at a competitive disadvantage. And so they were looking to decrease these deployment delays. So in addition to that, the compliance requirements that they had is paramount as well. So as a provider to the United States government agencies, they needed to meet these FedRAMP High compliance, which is a rigorous standard of cloud security. This involves over 400 security controls, including encryption for all data at rest and in transit. So automated key rotation and secure boot processes. VMware's proprietary nature limited their ability to implement these controls effectively, or to allow them to customize their infrastructure to meet these strict regulatory needs. And so all of that being said, their scalability concerns now comes more into focus, and their VMware infrastructure wasn't built for the level of scalability that they required for global expansion. So they needed an infrastructure capable of supporting that rapid growth, their hyper growth, while remaining cost effective. So basically, in summary, they needed a solution that would lower their costs, improve their agility, and ensure compliance with their strict security standards. And so this is where the Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes entered the picture. So now the second part, let's talk just a second about, or a little bit about, how Mirantis OpenStack provided that solution for them. In this portion, there are 2 steps, and basically what I'm going to talk about, number one, the first step is that we began with an architectural design assessment, or an ADA. It's a 3-week engagement that's designed to tailor the solution around your business and technical needs. And basically what the architectural design assessment, or ADA, provided was a vendor-neutral architectural design for cost efficiency and scalability. And so how did we do this, and what was the end resultant of all of that? And it was basically a cloud passport. And what that cloud passport is it's an extensive written guide to outlining their deployment strategies, their security measures, and their operational requirements. And so once we had gone through this architectural design assessment and provided them with this cloud passport, this SaaS company approved a 40-node OpenStack pilot to not only test the security, but to test performance as well. So one of the key differentiators of the Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes is our architectural design assessment. We don't just deploy OpenStack, we tailor it to your specific needs. And in this case, our team worked very closely with this customer to create a highly secure, cost-effective solution. The pilot phase allowed them to validate their workloads, integrate key services, and ensure everything was running optimally before migrating at scale. And so we'll talk about that in just a second as well. But now let me just quickly talk or talk in depth about the second step. And basically what the second step was what I just referred to, is this deployment. And the transition began with a comprehensive, tailored solution provided by us through a structured process. And I'll be talking about that also in just a little bit, on how the migration process actually works and how we structure and iterate through each of the different workloads. And so the pilot deployment involved a 40-node OpenStack cloud, which was going to serve as a staging environment for development and QA workloads. This allowed the SaaS company to validate their approach before scaling and before moving their workloads into production. Our engineers worked very closely with their team to configure the environment with custom integrations for single sign-on, SSO, load balancing as a service, LBAS, and DNS as a service, DNS as a service. And before handing over the environment, we conducted a 100-point verification test, ensuring conformance, performance, and reliability. The customer was so confident in our pilot success that they set up the stage for the full migration of those 3,000 VMs. So what we're talking about here is the key for us is Mirantis's tailored approach. We don't just deliver a generic OpenStack deployment. We customized it to fit their unique needs and their challenges, both from a business standpoint and from a technical standpoint. So what were the key milestones of this migration? And I want to talk a little bit, and this is just an overview of what I'll be talking about in a couple of slides as well, but really what it boils down to is we come in and the workload inventory and classification. So we conducted during this workshop, during the ADA workshop, the architectural design assessment to inventory and to classify all the workloads based on their resource requirements, the application dependencies, and more specifically, the network and security configuration. And then we took all of that knowledge and created a CI/CD based migration strategy to automate the entire process. I know I speak for the biggest majority of all of the cloud world out there when I say that if you have to do anything more than once by hand or manually, then we're all doing it wrong. And that's something that we strongly believe of here at Mirantis, and that is with the use of CI/CD and automation, so we can remove that human element where things can and do always go sideways, and it can absolutely destroy a process and your business and technical needs. The pilot workload migration, and so we selected a pilot workload for testing on OpenStack, and we used our automated tools to move these workloads seamlessly off of VMware onto our OpenStack environment. And then we provided the technical validation to ensure that the applications were running as expected and that they were running correctly as the SaaS company expected them to run. So it was a seamless migration from one environment to the next. So now let me just quickly talk about the full-scale production deployment. And so what we did here is we successfully migrated these 3,000 virtual machines from VMware to OpenStack in just a few short months. Some of them were larger and some of them were much smaller. However, we did these 3,000 virtual machines in just a few months. One of the things that also assisted us in this migration was they upgraded to a fully managed support service, and we provided them full operational support. That's also very key. And one of the things that we provide is a fully managed service. So all you as an organization need to concentrate on is development and getting your applications out to your customers, be it internal or external. And so you can concentrate on doing the things that you need to do in order to achieve operational, business, and technical supremacy. So the other thing is with the global expansion and scaling, within a year, this organization scaled to over a dozen production clusters worldwide. The deployment that took 3 months in VMware now could be completed in just 1 week. So now we're moving from this 3-month time frame down into 1 week. So we definitely compressed their ability to deploy new clusters, and that was a huge time saving. So basically, once the pilot workloads were proved successful, we moved into the full-scale migration. Again, the key was automation. By leveraging our automation tools, we minimized the downtime and ensured that there was a seamless workload transition. And of course, the results were phenomenal. 3,000 VMs migrated in just a few months, and then with faster deployments at a significant reduction in costs. The migration process was executed in a carefully planned phase, and this ensured minimal disruption and maximum efficiency. And I'll talk more about what that migration process looks like on the next slide. But let me just kind of walk back through what the workloads and how we achieve those. And so the workload inventory and classification, we began with this comprehensive workshop to inventory all of those 3,000 virtual machines that involved analyzing their resource usage, whether it be CPU, memory, or storage. Also, the dependency upon the applications and services. And of course, we took into account the security requirements for each workload. And so basically, this classification helped us prioritize those workloads for migration, ensuring that the most critical applications were moved first and validated on our platform that they were operating as expected. The pilot workload migration, and so using our automation pipelines, we automated the biggest majority of the entire migration process. And what all did that include? It included the workloads being mapped from VMware to OpenStack compatible configuration. We tested those applications in the pilot environment to ensure that compatibility and performance was all there, and that it was expected, that it was working as expected. And also the pilot was a proving ground that it validated the processes and addressed any issues way before we started taking any of these applications into production. And so then as we moved into the full-scale production deployment, we took the entire process in a few short months, and thanks to the automation and the detailed planning by our support organization and our services organization, at the end of this phase, all 3,000 virtual machines were running on OpenStack, and the company upgraded to our support, our fully managed support organization, which is called OpsCare Plus, for ongoing operational support. Then they moved directly into the global expansion and scaling. Now that the migration was complete, this organization was ready to scale globally. They deployed more than 12 production clusters worldwide to meet their growing customer demand. One of the biggest wins was for us and for them was their deployment times being dropped from 3 months to just 1 week. And that include QA and handover. So this phased approach ensured that every workload was migrated smoothly with no disruption to their business operations. Now, let me just talk real quickly about what the workload migration looks like and what the scoping and delivery looks like more importantly. So at the top, of course, we have everything is done with and adheres to a strict governance. And so at the very beginning with the migration workshop, what I've been talking about, we do the discovery, the planning for each virtual machine and each workload, and we put all of those into a migration catalog. And then that should take anywhere from a week. And again, our Mirantis employees are sitting with your organization and specifically with this organization, and it takes about 1 week. So all of these are done. And then, of course, the deployment is done next. And then if you'll notice here on the bottom, the CI/CD is part of the migration and validation. So during this migration journey, somewhere in a 2-week time frame, we've already established a discovery, planning, and deployment for all of your virtual machines and all of your workloads associated with what it is that you're wanting to move. Then, of course, once we have all of those tallied and in a migration catalog, we then move them into an automation pipeline. And so then it becomes much more streamlined and much more automatable, if that's such a word. But we have all of those in a CI/CD process, and it at that point becomes a migration factory. And so we can move very quickly, whether it be in a maintenance window or whether it be just a full-blown move this in, move it out. But all of those workloads then are being migrated via an automated process. And then, of course, the number of weeks depends upon how many virtual machines we're moving, how many different workloads we're moving, et cetera. So then at that point, within this QA and dev environment, you've got something along the lines of being able to move those into a production environment. If that happens to be the case, if you're wanting to move them directly into production, you can move them at that point. It's just a matter of changing your end resultant into that. So now let's talk about what the results were and what they achieved once the migration and once everything was transformed into production for this SaaS company. The cost savings were, as I've mentioned, the company saw a 60% reduction in their cloud costs, and that's a direct result of eliminating their VMware licensing fees and optimizing the infrastructure with the Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes. They saw an improved deployment speed. That's huge. And the deployments that previously took 3 months now take less than 1 week. And this increased agility allowed them to respond faster to their customer needs and to their business opportunities. The enhanced compliance. So by migrating to the Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes, they achieved FedRAMP High compliance, meeting the absolute strictest of security standards by the United States federal government for workloads. And some of those key features obviously are end-to-end encryption for data at rest and in motion, automated key rotation for added security, and IPsec security for all network traffic. It gives them also greater flexibility and scalability. OpenStack for Kubernetes by Mirantis, it provides the flexibility for you to be able to customize your cloud environments to meet very specific workload requirements. And they were no longer constrained by the VMware proprietary architecture or any of the VMware proprietary APIs. It also provided to them operational excellence. And, they partnered with Mirantis in our fully managed service, and that's called OpsCare Plus. And that ensured that their production environments were optimized and fully supported. 24/7, 365, follow the sun method. In short, they didn't just reduce their costs. They gained a competitive edge by improving their agility, their compliance, and their scalability. And this was a game changer for this company. They cut their cloud costs by 60%. Deployments became over 3 times faster, and they achieved the highest levels of security compliance. And Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes gave them this flexibility. And we also empowered them with our expertise to ensure a smooth transition between where they were at and where they wanted to go from VMware onto the OpenStack for Kubernetes. Some of the lessons and key takeaways that we learned and that this organization learned is vendor lock-in is extremely costly. And OpenStack for Kubernetes by Mirantis provides a vendor-neutral alternative. Automation, of course, accelerates everything, not just the migration, but it also ensures that the integration between these it ensures smooth transitions between the migration from one environment to ours. And so automation just accelerates everything that you do as an organization. Cost savings, of course, are significant. And the Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes eliminates the VMware licensing fees, and security and compliance are achievable, even for the United States federal government FedRAMP High workloads. We can empower you to achieve these security and compliance needs. We also have expert support, and working with us and our Ops Care Plus, Mirantis accelerates your success. So case studies they basically prove that Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes is just not a viable VMware alternative, but it's a strategic advantage. By reducing costs, increasing your agility, and maintaining high security, and you can take, and your organization can take control of your cloud computing and your cloud computing strategy. If your organization is considering a similar transition, then obviously we can talk about how we can help you achieve these results, just as we did for this SaaS organization. So in closing and next steps, basically, if you're interested in evaluating what OpenStack can do for you and what the Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes can do for you and your workloads, obviously, please contact us for an assessment. We can come in and do a very tailored and customized solution for you, just as we did for this SaaS organization. And feel free to reach out to me at any time, mtillman@mirantis.com. And we're more than and I'm more than happy to set up your specialized and tailored and specific workload migration and optimization. So join us for, I'll also be doing a webinar in April, I think. However, if you would like, please join my Mirantis colleagues for upcoming webinars. And there's a couple of things that may be of interest to you, and I think these are Sergey is our senior product manager, and he will be doing these next two webinars on January the 29th. And that's about defeating the complexity with use case optimized Kubernetes platforms. He's a great guy and also very knowledgeable in how we can help you with that. And the next is mastering Kubernetes cluster APIs from setup to scaling. That's a very important thing that we do here at Mirantis. And again, that's with Sergey on February the 11th. And if you would take a little bit of time, and I'm sure that you can find these to sign up, not just on this platform, but on, I'm sure you can find them on LinkedIn. And if not, please feel free to message me at any time. I'll help you get registered for these, or I can point you in any direction that you would like. But again, thank you for being here today, and it was a pleasure talking to you, and have a great day.